Hi, I'm Alan, and this is Prayers to the Dice Gods, and today we're going to be looking to level up our dry brushing skills. Now, if you've ever done any dry brushing, you will know that it can look very chalky when you're done. Now, there's a couple of different ways you could try to limit the way that comes out, and that's to do it in as little paint as possible and build it up as much, and you'll find that does take away some of that chalkiness. Now, the way we're going to do it today is we're going to dry brush the fur on this wolf, but then we're going to wait until we've done all of the layers of dry brushing that we want, and then we're going to go over the top with our brown wash, because what that will do is that will tint those layers of dry brush and make them look like they're blended, while simultaneously taking away all of that chalk. Okay, so we've started off with a beautiful base of Mornfang brown on this wolf. We're gonna go for our first lot of dry brushing. We are gonna do that with a little bit of XV88. Of course, we're gonna make sure that we get as much of that paint off of the brush as we possibly can before we start, and we're gonna go around the entire model. Now, you'll notice here that according to the thumbnail, those legs aren't that colour, but I was seeing whether or not they'd look nice as the same colour as the fur. I changed my mind, it wasn't as nice. One of the keys to this dry brush technique is that we go through quite a few different colours to get to where we want to go. So we started off with our XV88. We are actually going to finish up with pure white in some spots on the wolf. What this is going to do for us is give us a nice stepped layered progression up to the highest highlight that we want, exactly like we would get if we were layering or glazing any of the other techniques. If you're liking the video so far, please remember to click on the like button before the wolf finds it and eats it, and then you won't be able to press it at all. Now that all those dry brush layers are on, we're going to go over that with some Agrax Earthshade. Now, the main reason for this is because it's brown. We want it to look brown. We want it to blend all of those dry brush layers. We're going to go around nice and gently. We don't want to overload this too much, because otherwise it will just wash the whole thing out, and we don't want that. Once the Agrax Earthshade's dry, we're going to paint the legs. We're actually going to do this in a flesh colour because I really like the way it looked with the brown, so I'd already had this planned in my head. If the brown didn't quite work the way I wanted it to, we were going to go for this, and we're just going to layer that and highlight that exactly like we normally would. Of course, we're going to give it a wash of Reikland Fleshshade and highlight it up from there. We're going to use Bugmans Glow just to do those little pads on the paws and lighten that up. Now we're going to use some grey Seer just to paint his mouth, with the idea that we're going to use some Guiliman flesh in the mouth to paint the gums. We're actually going to use the same mix of Bugman's Glow that we'd use to do the pads on his paws for his tongue. But because I want this wolf to look a little bit aged, I want him to look like he's got a little bit of grey fur coming through. So we're actually going to go around with some pure white. We're going to hit some edge pieces of the fur, so around the face, the ears, and just some spots along the body, as well as the end of the tail and those bits on his back. What we're then going to do is actually go over those with some Seraphim Sepia, or tone those parts down to look more to the brown, as if it's losing its colour a little bit. And then we're going to go back around all of those. So we're just going to hit the ends of each of those little bits of fur just with some more pure white, just to give him that kind of aged look. And of course, there's some bits that I didn't do on camera. Things like trying to paint eyeballs is really difficult under a camera. So I painted the eyes off screen because I didn't want to add that in. It's quite a difficult thing to do on camera, and let's face it, it can take quite a lot of attempts as it is. So I did that off camera, as well as a few other bits like painting the end of his nose black, just to give him an extra little bit of character. Now, I don't know about you, I'm really impressed with the way that the chalkiness that was over the fur of this model is completely gone. It only took one coat of wash. Now, of course, because if you progressed through like I did with the lighter shades right through to white, you can thin down the Agrax Earthshade and of course put that on, and that will change the way that those go, and it will keep that bright end highlight rather than dulling it back down towards the brown. If you have any extra hints or tips to help your dry brushing look better, please leave them in the comments below and we will give them a try, and of course give you the credit.